Morning. Yeah, thank you. The loneliest man in this building is the classroom teacher on Sunday morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Resurrection Day. All right, before we dive into First Peter chapter 3, and I was going to say we might finish a chapter this morning, but I won't make such promises because we got a few things to cover. And this morning I could not find my class notes, so be easy on me today. Don't ask me any difficult questions. Oh, go ahead. Luke can answer them. As you're growing up, what was one of your favorite Easter traditions when you were a kid? What do you remember?
When I was little, we did church service at daybreak.
Church service at daybreak.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't necessarily happy about it, but I remember it.
Okay. All right. We used to have one here at sunrise, but all those that wanted a sunrise service never came. So it was kind of weird, but I enjoyed it. So anyway, anybody else? What as a kid? What was some of your memories of Easter? Your favorite memories of Easter? Linda, at your grandma's house. Okay, on the farm. Oh, those uncles. You can't trust them. That's good. I like that. Now, I'm assuming that when we say Easter eggs, we're not meaning these plastic things. The boiled eggs, right? Oh, okay. As we say, max out boiled, right? Yeah. Right? Oh, really?
They would sit under the kitchen counter. They poured them off, and I don't know what they did with them later, but
I thought you were going to.
fun to look at for a while.
Well, that story went nowhere fast. So did you raise them and eat them, or? Oh, I was waiting for you to say, but 2 months later, we. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Jill.
For me, it would be wearing a brand new dress. My
Hmm.
mother would sew our dresses. So 3 girls and my brother, I guess, he got left out. So she would be up every night before Easter. I know she didn't sleep at all because she was trying to make dresses. And so you didn't know what the finished product would look like. You got up on Easter morning, but you would have your
Yes. 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 Ben.
my cousins would always be was fun. I love and of course
Okay. Yeah, the food. Yeah. Yes. My mom would always. We were kind of the opposite of you guys. We were 3 brothers and 1 sister, and she was the oldest. Bless her heart. There's an extra star on her crown somewhere. We tortured her. Um, but Easter, she'd get a new dress. And I remember at Easter, a lot of the ladies at church wearing hats. That was kind of a thing then. But mom, every other year, I forget how often, but she would get me and my brothers matching plaid suits. We'd go to J.C. Penney and Little Rock, and I got a picture. I couldn't find it of me and my brother all lined up, and I'm wearing Easter ears. I'm wearing Easter bunny ears, doing something funny. I couldn't find it. I'll find it. I'll look for that picture. It's pretty funny. But we'd dye eggs, right, with the food dye. That was the most fun, just dyeing the eggs. Then we'd hide it. It's just our family. Then we'd hide them because we lived out in the country, and then we'd hide them again, and we'd hide them, And then at the last time, all the eggs didn't match up with how many we hid. My dad would go, "Oh, it's all right. The God's creatures will have a feast." And so he said, "We're just feeding God's creatures." And then Mom would peel the eggs and eat the eggs. I did not participate in that part of it. She'd make egg salad and what all, and so I excused myself from the egg eating, but the egg hiding, I was. And how many of you were raised on every mom made a ham, right? Ham on Easter. I don't know how that became a thing, but I guess everybody did it. And she would make it on Saturday night, and so the smell would waffle in the house. Well, I hope that our kids have as good of those kind of good memories as you do of Easter and eggs. And then I just read, and I'll share it in the sermon. 60% of parents, although their kids are grown and raised and left the house, 60% of parents still buy them and send them an Easter basket. Did you find that weird? A little bit disturbing, maybe? I don't know. When I read that, I was like, what? They can buy their own Easter baskets, but anyway. 1 Peter chapter 3. Hope you filled out your little thing last week that we handed out on how you're doing, and are you an infant, toddler, youth, or teen, or adult? You're mature in being like-minded, mutual interest, true companionship, heartfelt compassion, spirit of humility. You have a forgiving nature. You control your tongue. You live a life of purity, and you have a peaceful disposition. So as we think about 1 Peter 8 through 12, and then we go on. What is the question that Peter asked in verse 13? And as you're looking at that, in the backdrop of what we just discussed, there's something that is running in the background, like on your computer. It's a operating system running in the background, that Peter has this assumption. Peter has this belief that all of us can mature as believers, that we can grow, and that we should be growing as believers in our speech, in our thought life, in our whatever that is that he's just listed. And so Peter has this faith in us that we can grow spiritually. All right, so what's the question in verse 13 that he poses to us? Who is going to harm you if you are eager to do what? To do good. And how would you answer that question? Who? It depends on what? Okay. All right. That's a good point. But if we're doing those things, that helping others, sharing, we're being that good neighbor, we're doing, Peter says, who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good?
Take advantage of it. But at the same time, though, this coming from someone who would remind us that Jesus said, if someone asks you to walk a mile, walk 2 miles.
Okay. All right. So Peter is kind of challenging us with the Christian ethic. If a soldier asks you to carry his backpack, you are required to go 1 mile. But then Jesus says, but don't do that. Jesus says, go the extra. That's where we get the phrase, go the extra mile, and go 2 miles, and serve that soldier and do extra of what you are asked to do. But the question is, who's going to harm you for doing good? Harry? Okay. He'd probably be the top of the list. Um, yeah. Okay. Yes. Right. Ooh. I don't know, because you look at verse 14. Oh, no, no. I think what he's getting at is, um, don't expect the world to reciprocate just because you are doing good. Not everybody's going to say, oh, you're so wonderful. That's just so great. But that's not why you're doing it. He's getting at why we do good. What's our motivation? Yes, Galen. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Christians in Rome, right? Okay. Yeah. There. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm reminded of the passage, probably Paul, but treat your enemies, be hospitable and invite them to your home and feed them. And doing so, you'll heap burning coals on their head or something to that.
Yep.
effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's doing good.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, he really is talking about the Christian ethic. And these exiles are living in some cultures that are hostile to this new faith called Christianity, and this Messiah called Jesus. So, verse 14, I mean, we think about the Beatitudes, right? We think of, Matthew 5 of those who mourn, and we kind of think those are, but there's a lot of Beatitudes in the Bible. Go through the Psalms. There's lots of Beatitudes in the Psalms. And here, even if you should suffer for what is right, what does Peter say? You are blessed. What? But even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Somebody help me out. Somebody, as Ricky Ricardo would say, explain it to me. How's that work? David?
Like Brooke said, it's perspective. He's seeing things through what God would have done with kids. The world sees things as what Rome would have with people. Perspective is different. But she's blessed for her perspective, even if other people don't see it.
Okay.
We're blessed for our attempts to do what God wants, even if it's
Okay, so, but what does it mean to be blessed? Here we go. Okay. Yeah. Um, yes. Right. Yeah. And there's some peace with that. There's some, yeah. Now I like what he says. You're blessed for doing right, but sometimes I find Christians act like a bunch of knotheads, and they go around, and so we're not blessed because we're just acting like a bunch of yip yaps out there, just being obnoxious. And he says, really, for doing right, and for doing good. Just keep in mind, you have spiritual blessings. In fact, Peter here kind of gets, I'm going to use a fancy word here, but he gets a little astrological. He's thinking about, and what that means is the end times. And so he's thinking a little astrologically by saying, we gotta, as believers, exiles, if you're in all these places and life's not going well for you and you're being mistreated, and keep in mind that one of these days, when Christ returns, everything's going to be all right. And so Christians, as believers, we got to take the long view. We got to take the long view of life, and not just what happens today and how we feel today. We got to take that, I see it. We got to take that long road and keep that firmly in our minds, right? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. In fact, you've read ahead. You've seen verse 18, so that's good. Yes, sir. Okay. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
It could include being the CEO of
Could. That's it.
when you look at the apostles' lives and their lives,
Okay. Exactly. Yeah, that's what. That's exactly what Peter's saying. Is, in fact, he's going to bring in Christ here in just a second. That Christ suffered for doing right, for being righteous, and so we are to be like him, and that's our example. Sam. Yes. Yes, it's a spiritual blessing. We're at peace with God. We're at peace with ourselves, and we have a hope that those around us don't have, because they're living for today, and so we're living for eternity. And so those two values don't mesh well, right? So that's what Peter's saying. So Anyway, just a good study is to go through the Psalms and other places and just keep a list of the phrases "you are blessed," and you'll find some pretty amazing things. Ray, did you have your hand up?
So, I think the strongest rebuttal of people that don't believe in take it bad, they're not afraid of dying. It's a confrontation of who you are. You doesn't want to strike back, but I think just to knock the dust off your feet, just be in that conversation. Non-believer or I call Jesus.
Yeah. Well, harking back to chapter 2, he says, "But if you suffer for doing good and you endure it, this is commendable before God. To this you are called because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps." That's kind of what you're right. So Peter's getting at this theology of suffering that I think we need to be reminded of. But then he says this: do not fear their threats. Do not be frightened. So how do we respond to their threats against us? How does Peter say we should respond? How should we respond? What's our mindset? Do not fear their threats. And I'm reminded of, do not fear him, or they who can kill the body. Fear him who can do what? Who can kill the soul. So part of wisdom is knowing whom to fear. Right? Yes, I mean there's so many good examples, but here they were. He knew they were gonna. What was that stake? And he still told them truth. Yeah. I love that. If you want to just be, um, feel small, read Fox's Book of Martyrs, and you will feel really small. I mean, I just think of people like Stephen and modern martyrs as they are killed just for their faith, just for being who they are. I mean, right now in Nigeria, Christians are being killed by the hundreds of thousands, and you don't hear a word of it on the news, not a word, because the world's not disturbed by that. But they're being annihilated by the thousands. And so, but yet we're not to fear those people that can kill our bodies, right? But fear him who can kill the soul. And so part of wisdom is knowing who to fear. Okay. There you go. There you go. So in still a phrase by Lou, he says, "You look, do not live by fear." Because what does fear do? Fear paralyzes you. I mean, have you ever been so scared you couldn't move or speak? Well, for me, it's all the time. But and so he says, look, because fear does all this negative things in our lives, right? He says, don't live by fear. Who said it? I forget who said it. That do not take counsel of your fears. Because when you go to do something, what's fear going to tell you? Oh, you're going to fail. You're not good enough to do that. There's other people that do this a lot better than you know. And if you listen to all that, and I love the quote by Babe Ruth, who do you know how many times he struck out? By the way, hundreds. He struck out hundreds of times, but yet he is known for what? His home runs. And he once said, "I do not let the fear of striking out prevent me from walking to the plate." And so, you know, our fears can stop us from doing those things. So Peter's just trying to encourage these exiles that are out there. They're away from family. They're away from maybe some friends, you know, and they're in a new country. They're in a place that's run by pagans and all these things. And he's saying, look, don't live by fear, but live by faith. And don't be frightened. And live. And then he says in verse, then what's the exhortation in verse 15? But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. So in your heart, you don't revere Caesar as Lord. You don't revere that pagan God as being over you. You revere Christ as the Lord of your life. But in your heart, you revere Christ as Lord. And you keep him at the center of your motivations, of your actions, of your thoughts, and how you treat others. So don't let the world's standards be your standard. Let Christ's example be your standard of not just how you act, but how you react to those around you in the world. Right? And how many times, who's calling me, that we don't act, but we're all the time just reacting, right? And it seems to me that we need to be acting and not reacting. Do you see the point? I mean, that we revere Christ as Lord. We know our ethic, and we know our values, and we're not going to let anybody else around us deter us from revering Christ as Lord. Now, as Brooks has reminded us, and Peter's going to remind us, not everyone around you is going to applaud that. You kind of think, hey, I'm doing what's right. Everybody's going to go, yay, that's really great. Because they are threatened because it threatens their values. And it threatens what they hold dear. And what happens when those values are threatened that aren't of a spiritual nature? They fight back, right? I saw a hand. Yes. Because our hearts, above all else, our hearts are what? Our hearts are deceitful, right? And to go on feeling, because the Bible says, and you will know the truth. He didn't say you'll feel the truth, because our feelings are fickle. And so it's got to be by faith and not by feeling. Sam. You stole his thoughts. Thank you. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll do
Yep. Yeah. 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 Yes, there's whole religions based on feelings. And so, I had a thought and it's gone. Okay. Thoughts don't stay long in mind. They just travel through. They're just like,
Hey, what was that?
yes. My thoughts are like pilgrims. They're just passing through. They just, they just. All right. Verse 15. But in your hearts, revere Christ as Lord. Then he says this. I've underlined about 3 words in this passage. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. Now, as you go through that, what words kind of popped out at you? Always. That's one of the words I've got underlined. Always. Always be what? Be prepared. I thought of the Lion King when I see that. Always be prepared. And what does that mean to always be prepared? Personal commitment? What else would that mean, Sam?
I always thought it was kind of like be able to point to Jesus, which kind of is with God. Also, I personally believe in Jesus because of whatever, like,
Okay. Okay. All right. Yes, Dave.
For me, it's about less my knowledge and more my relationship.
Okay. All right.
If my relationship with Christ is solid, then he's always there for me to lean on in a situation where I might not have.
Okay. Brooke? Mm. That's good. I saw another hand, Jeff.
I think the idea is not to, what's your answer? Well, I'm telling you what you're thinking is wrong. No, that's not what it's saying. They tell them how they're wrong. It says give them the reason why of your hope.
There you go.
It's that whole positive, like, they say, why do you feel? Well, let me tell you how I feel. Not in the sense of trying to belittle them or tell them whatever they're wrong. Let me tell you why.
I like that. I like that.
I think when people get that, people are more open to hearing that. They say, well, when we tell you what your problem is,
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you believe. Well, I know a lot of people in different groups who they don't believe the same. So I don't take it for granted for even more of what they believe. My thing is now I have started to ask them, what do you believe about God? And how did you come to that conclusion? So I've come to just ask more questions and to lead them. And I used to be so rude. And that's why I really like, and Jeff, I think you're spot on. But this is where we get the word apologetics, by the way. And apologetics simply means defending the faith. And so I hope that if one of your friends or family asks you, well, why do you why do you worship this Jesus? Why do you go to that church? Why do you, what? And that you can give them a reason for the hope that you have. I think that's a great answer that you have. I'll start here. Harry?
My mind dwells throughout the day. How could I tell somebody? What could I say to someone who doesn't have? The more your mind is going down those trails, you hear a scripture, turns the light on for you, you practice in your mind. I need someone to tell them how amazing you are.
Yeah.
Because of this.
Yeah.
And the more you practice that in your mind, it becomes nature that if someone comes at you even with hostility, and whether there's all kinds of contradictions in the Bible, you just turn the conversation for it. I know he doesn't have that. I may not understand all the details you want to argue about.
Yeah.
I know he has.
Yep. Yep.
And he wants me to offer.
Yeah, let me give you a quick example because I think we need to finish a verse. I got you. But do this with gentleness and respect. So the words that I have underlined in this is always and with gentleness and got respect because I didn't always do it with gentleness and respect. I won a lot. I'm telling you, I won a lot of arguments, but I didn't win the soul. And now I have a different tact, and I'll share with you in just a second. Yes, Jen. Yeah, yeah. Right, right, right. And how you treat them. Absolutely. Yes. Who? No. Mm-hmm. Mm. There you go. There you go. But I've learned, I think, hopefully, to do it with gentleness and respect. I just had this conversation just last week with a guy who's LDS, and we're talking. He said, "Well, he said both of us are Christians after all, right?" And I said, "Are we?" He said, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "Well, if you believe that Christ is the physical brother of Lucifer, and I believe that Christ has always been, and he's in heaven, always been non-created Son of God, would you say that those two are the same?" And he said, "No." I said, "So if they're not the same, then we're not the same, because you follow one and I follow the other." He goes, "Oh, yeah, I guess I can see that. You give me something to think about." And that was the conversation. So I'm just trying to ask questions instead of saying, "I know what you believe and you're not a Christian." I want to raise the questions in their mind so that they'll walk away going, he had a point there. I need to ferret that out in my mind and wrestle with that. And so I've got a little studies set up. We haven't done it yet with two young LDS guys and they've asked me what I believe. They want my take on God and Jesus, and from my perspective. So pray for that study. I don't know how it's going to go. I'm scared to death to do it, but we're going to dive in because I should be ready, right, to give an answer for the hope that I have.
I think the struggle that Christians, not American, philosophical belief in Christianity, struggle with bringing hope
Yes.
is that it's really easy. I struggle with it myself. Really easy to get caught up in that my beliefs are right. I need
Well, are you? Yeah, but are you? Well, I know what you believe. Do you? You know, and ask them. So
instead of like
yeah. So I think what.
I'm ready to answer why I'm
Yes. What I think is that a lot of times we've had the right answers, but we've answered them the wrong way, with the wrong attitude. And they reject the conversation, not because what you said wasn't true, because how you said it. And so that's Peter's point, is do it with gentleness and respect to them. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's right. Well, and let me make one final comment, is your conversation is going to be a lot different with an LDS person over 60 or 70 than a young LDS about 15 to 20. Because I've been in conversations where some older guy, says something, and the young one goes, "I don't believe that." I'm like, "Oh, now it's on." Now, okay, now let's you know, uh, and I find myself refereeing them instead of now settle down. We're going to be okay here. I saw a hand in one final, going once, going twice. Connect, and then Brooke. There you go. Just tell your story. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, just tell your story and what you've experienced. They can't argue with that. Just tell your story. Brooke, you got the last word. Yep. And that's why in my preaching, I don't do a lot of what we just did here in my preaching, because Jesus said, "If I be lifted up, I'll draw all men." So I don't feel like I have to run down anybody else. But if you lift up Christ, he said that men will be drawn to that, right? So that's kind of, well, hey, good discussion this morning. We have a lot of guests this morning. I'm anticipating Easter Sunday. If you don't see a familiar face, talk to them, greet them. Or if you do see a familiar face, greet them as well. And let's make everybody feel welcome this morning as they come in to worship with us. We'll see you in a few minutes. Thanks for all your comments. Good stuff today. Thank you.